Is love and a fatty is an small do our who is our nini cresok la thale hokras is ni father ve mi bio tamit kalch gojo is fin vo the them winchor we Ochón, 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 I'm sure androchil. Ochón, 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 an Gorta Mór. Da banrien semratan, gan tlúis dar guinu, is ní súdar njóra ag ag banrien a bláis. Tá mid brota le tines gan in rud lenithe is ar mi as nalling ima harliar. Ochón, 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 I'm sure androchil. Ochón, 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 an Gorta Mór. Tána daoine briste búrtha is scapathe le gaoth, is ar lean ní sceantaí ar thaobh an bhóthar. Níl tarú le rind, níl fatí le wind, ach an fair fada asach ag fanach linn. Ochón, 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 I'm sure androchil. Ochón, 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 an Gorta Mór.
Tafalcha Riba Galer, Maharja. My name is Eileen Moore Quinn, and for many years I've been a student of folklore both in Ireland and Irish America. Today we are looking at the songs of the Great Hunger on Gorta Mór, or more literally, the Great Hurt, with a focus on the work of novelist, poet, and most of all songwriter Brendan Graham. Like many of us, Brendan has been both embedded and imbued in the story of An Gorta Mór, how it unfolded, what we were told and not told, and how it will unfold in terms of memory in the future. His songs evoke nostalgia for many of us, and I believe that that is one reason that they have resonated so richly, not only in his homeland of Ireland, but abroad, in the diasporic communities around the world. So without further ado, as they say, Eileen, come with us, take this journey in terms of the songs of the Great Hunger, especially with a focus on the songwriter Brendan Graham. Gura míle mágaibh. Ochón and Gorta Mór, the song by Brendan Graham that demonstrates accumulated knowledge. Typically, Ochón is an old genre. It is the cry of a woman, perhaps the cry of collective women, called Namana Kincha, meaning the keening women of the society. In this particular genre, the opportunity was given for women who were mourning and expressing their grief, their communal grief at the collective sorrow of the community. Scholars have called the Queen a theater of death because women were given license to free themselves from their restraints that they might feel at other times of the year. There's even a term, asambiawar, out of her mind, to express what it was like to be freed from those conventions. So what we find overall is that we are so fortunate to have Brendan Graham as a keeper of the flame, so to speak, as someone who is a legatee of the Ochón tradition.
We're in the Botanic Gardens in Dublin, and behind me are the curvilinear glasshouses, and somewhere out there used to be a lumper potato patch at the time of the Great Famine. And the curator at the time was a man called David Moore, and on the 20th of August 1845, on his rounds, he discovered that late blight had come on the lumper potatoes, and he knew what that was and the effects it could cause on the country and its people. So he started experimenting with various mixtures, including the famous bluestone steeps, to see if he could cure the blight. And he was actually on the right track, but at a stage then the money was stopped by the Royal Dublin Society. Moore's money was stopped, and it was redirected towards building the curvilinear glasshouses. And the curvilinear glasshouses stand looking down on the potato plot. So to me, the frozen music that was in the building, the physical building of the curvilinear glasshouses, was a lament. It was a lament and a cry for a famished people. So we're here in Crucán na bPáiste, a children's burial ground, or a killeen, and these places are all over Ireland. And where this particular one is, it's on the Trasna Pass Road, and an area like this was, you know, in the time of the famine, was almost cut off by waters, and Loch Mask is over that way. And it's a beautiful spot, but I wondered if the mothers and fathers who buried their children here saw the beauty. And here there are boulders. There's no tombstones, so the bare boulders mark the spot where these holy innocents were buried. And it made me think, what would it have been like for a mother and a father to bring their dead child to this place of great beauty? They wouldn't see the beauty, they'd only see and feel the grief. And I thought it should be written as Gaeilge, and it was my first attempt to write in my native language. And I give recognition to the tradition because part of the melody I used came from the tradition, and then I added chorus melody and of course the words. So hopefully I treated with respect the tradition that came before. I wrote it for the soundtrack to my first book, The Whitest Flower, where my character buries one of her children in Crucán, bPáiste. So that's where the inspiration from that song came from. And even though people may not always understand the Irish language, somehow they get the sense, and this is down to the wonderful interpretation by the singers. And so somehow the soul of a song can transcend the words and the music and reach somebody else who doesn't fully understand the why or the what, but knows something is going on here. And that's something I'm always grateful for. Of course, songs travel, they just find their own ways out there, and thankfully sometimes they arrive. One of the really moving things about this song was that for last year's National Great Famine Memorial Day, the song was performed at the ceremony to commemorate all those who died and who suffered. And a wonderful young singer called Amy Banks sang a version of an a cappella version of it.
The Killeen, or Killini in the plural, represents the place on the landscape where children that had not received a Christian baptism were laid to rest. And we find ourselves back in a world that is not part of who the Irish people were prior to the coming of the Christian religion. All places in Ireland are sacred. All places in Ireland are valuable. And as Brendan Graham knows, bringing his knowledge or knowledge of the landscape to the fore, we are gifted with the understanding that if you look at things in a certain way, you get one sensibility, but if you look at it differently, you see things differently. So when we look at the Killini and those who are buried there, we see that they are marginalized people, not those considered in the heart and soul of the culture, like unbaptized children, or sailors who died in shipwreck, or even suicides. What I find striking about Crucán na bPáiste, apart from its exquisite elemental and lamental forces, is the fact that it's the mask, it's the mountain, it's the water, it's the elemental forces around Crucán na bPáiste where the children are buried, where this particular child in the song is laid to rest, that are angry, that feel that passion for what has happened to the child.
I since the praise took us down. Orphan Girl, songs come about in different ways. Sometimes it's pure inspiration, and sometimes it's the phone call. And Orphan Girl came about as a result of a phone call for the 2012 Great Famine Memorial in Sydney at Hyde Park Barracks. The committee kindly invited me to speak. They'd had such a fine array of speakers before me. I suggested to them that perhaps we would use song interspersed with the narrative to tell the story, and they kindly agreed. And I was fascinated by the story of the orphan girls who, under the Earl Grey scheme of 1848 to 1850, about 4,100 odd young Irish girls were sent to Australia to free up the workhouses, and there was a lot of men in Australia and not a lot of young women. So they were sent to help populate the colony. And I wondered what it would be like to be a young woman who had heard about Australia, because women had been sent there before, and saw it as a land of opportunity. There wasn't much choice. If you stayed in the workhouse, you would probably die. So I thought of a girl of 16 being caught in this space of hope and death and wondering, will I be picked to go? So that was the central theme of the song. So it had its premiere in Sydney at Hyde Park Barracks. And at Hyde Park Barracks, there's a beautiful famine memorial there. And there's also this glass wall that has the names on it of a couple of hundred of these orphan girls who were sent out there. So the song was performed in front of the wall with all these, the names of these young Irish women on it. And by a strange coincidence, the woman who was on the keyboards that day, her orphan girl ancestor name was on that wall, and she didn't know it until the day, and her mother said to her, do you know that your great-great-grandmother's name is on that wall? So that was very special, and the song was performed by Sarah Calderwood and the Australian Girls Choir.
We dedicate this song to their memories and to you, their ascendants. So if the choir will come up, and Jane will come up, and Sarah will come up, they will sing for you Orphan Girl.
I am an orphan girl. In Westport I was found. The workhouse is my world, since the praties took us down. What time in life is left to me if I don't leave Westport town? But the Crown is sending girls to sea for far Australia bound. Sail, sail, sail me away, sail to Australia. Sail, sail, sail me and ray, sail me away to Australia. They say Australia's fine. They say Australia's fair. Australia's on my mind, and the fields of Brady's there. I pray I am scarcely turned 16, but I'm ready now to go. I am decent and I'm clean, fit for any man to know. And I will be some good man's wife if there I'd settle down and find myself a better life if I get to Sydney town. Sail, sail, sail me away, sail to Australia. Sail, sail, sail me, I pray. Sail me away to Australia. Sail me away, sail me, I pray. Oh, sail me away to Australia. I am an orphan girl. Oh, I am an orphan girl.
There is a connecting thing between these songs that we're looking at and hearing, and it's this book, The Whitest Flower. And how it all started was the song, the voice led me into a different area of writing about elemental things and our history. And from that, I started to think about the history, and particularly on Gorta Mór, the Great Famine. When writing The Whitest Flower, I wanted my heroine in the song, Ellen Rua O'Malley, to sing, so that at times when the grief became too much and it was inexpressible in words, she could release that through song. So I decided to write a song called The Whitest Flower. And the whitest flower was the white flower of the potato plant, which for the people meant they would have enough food for another year. And of course, we know what happened. The white flower of the potato plant turned into a black, putrid flower, and the potatoes were black and putrid. So the political thinking at the time from London was that this was the hand of God striking down the feckless, lazy Irish for their ways. And the church, to some extent, not sort of universally so, took the same view, that the people were living free and sinful lives. So you had the poor people trying to survive, and you had the two great powers in their life, the London government and the Almighty, both telling them that this blight was their own fault. So I wanted to capture that in the song, the notion of the white flower turning to the black flower, and also in the chorus where Ellen beseeches the heaven and says, "Did you send this down on your people?" So I wrote the song, and the singer Maeve Mulcahy approached me then about a project she was doing in Canada with the Quebec Symphony Orchestra. So I put a piece together called From Famine to Freedom, Ireland to Gross Eel, because Gross Eel was the quarantine island where the ships that came from here in Ireland went to, and people were assessed and many of the Irish died. And so all of a sudden this very simple song had a full symphonic arrangement to it, and it was presented for a couple of nights in Quebec by Maeve and the Quebec Symphony.
À l'occasion du concert de ce soir, le réputé romancier et compositeur irlandais, M. Brendan Graham, auteur de You Raise Me Up, nous a préparé un enchaînement de pièces et de narrations tout à fait spécial. Le titre qu'il a donné à son travail est déchirant, puisque l'histoire nous fait passer du dénuement à la liberté. From Famine to Freedom, Ireland to Grosse Hill.
I have seen the whitest flower I have ever seen. Everywhere, the whitest flower where once the harvest leaf was green. I have seen the whitest flower bloom in every field. Death is in the whitest flower. We are cursed and our fate is sealed. Oh God in heaven, did you this flower send? Is this your vengeance for how your people have sinned? Oh God in heaven, is this your judgment day? All you have given, now you have taken away. Oh my love, the whitest flower has kissed your mouth so fair. Now you lay in its darkest power, but I wait with you while you sleep there. Oh God in heaven, did you this flower send? Is this your vengeance for how your people have sinned? Oh God in heaven, is this your judgment day? All you have given, now you've taken away. Oh my love, in this blackest hour I will weep, and my children will keen. On your grave I will lay no flower but the reddest rose you've ever seen. The reddest rose you've ever seen.
To me, one of the most fascinating things about the whitest flower is that it opens up with the answer to a question. I have seen it. I have seen the whitest flower. And right away, we are involved in the superlative with the use of the word whitest, not white or whiter, but rather whitest. We are taken into the heart of what Brendan Graham is doing in the song, using the superlative. The next thing that I notice about the whitest flower is that it takes its place in the panegyric tradition, in the tradition of praising the potato. The Irish were known, of course, for singing great songs and delivering great poems about those who had died. They would say they were kind, they were generous, they were good. We have songs and stories like Na Fati Bana, for example, a poem that praises the potato as if it were alive. Likewise, the whitest flower does the same. And yet, the next move that Brendan Graham makes is to juxtapose that whiteness with its opposite, with the darkest, with the blackest, with the sense of Black 47, which was the worst year of An Gorta Mór.
This song, The Voice, had its origins in the early 1990s. And it was at a time that my songwriting was changing. I had become a lot more interested in our history, in spiritual things, and in the elements. So I was walking one day in the Wicklow Mountains, and there was a breeze among the trees, and it seemed to me that there was a voice in that breeze, and that the voice was calling to me. And it also struck me that this unidentified voice was a universal voice. It was the voice of the past and the present and the future. So the idea came to me about this song, and I suppose in a way it encapsulated the three areas of my interest in Irish history, because the voice was saying it was the voice of history and blood in the fields and famine, and it also encapsulated the sort of spiritual dimension, because obviously the voice was not a human, it was either interior or it was sort of across the globe, and it was also the voice of the future, because the troubles in Northern Ireland were still going on, and things were very bad up there. So the voice was saying, bring me your peace, and my wounds they will heal. So that was the kind of general notion I had of the song. And it's fine, the ideas are always fine, but then you have to write it. And of course, once you write them, then you kind of stand on the sidelines and wonder, where will this song go to, if it will go anywhere? And in 1994, I had written a song called Rock and Roll Kids, which was a sort of a mellow, sort of folky type song, which won the Eurovision Song Contest. And when I'd written The Voice, and it wasn't written with the Eurovision Song Contest in mind, it was just another song, but I thought, wouldn't it be interesting to submit a very different kind of song that had sort of political and historical commentary. So I did, and it got selected, and it went to Eurovision with Quinn and a band of traditional musicians that we put together. And surprisingly, it won.
It was amazing that this song came out of nowhere but felt like it had always existed, that it presented in this really kind of ancient, almost sacred form. It paints a picture of a suffering of a people, but a resilience of a people. It gives me this very grounded feeling. I feel like I'm spreading roots into the ground as I sing it, and I'm drawing on these elements and this history. The pain that's been spoken about and so closely linked also in the order of the lyric, your hunger and pain. And he roots the song in that experience of the great hunger. And this pain is still something that's felt through the generation. And, also for the diaspora, Irish people are everywhere in the world. And, this pain emigrated with them.
and I hear you call out my name. Listen, my child, you say to me, I am the voice of your history. Be not afraid, come follow me. Answer my call and I'll set you free. I am the voice in the wind and the pouring rain. I am the voice of your hunger and pain. I am the voice that always is calling you. I am the voice, I will remain. I am the voice in the fields when the summer's gone, the dance of the leaves when the autumn winds blow. Nor do I sleep throughout all the cold winter long. I am the force that in spring